In 1950s America, the gas station wasn't just a place to buy fuel. It was a neighborhood stage, a roadside confessional, a mechanical hospital, and sometimes the only place for miles where a traveler could feel human again. Long before self-service pumps, credit cards, and the blinking LED price signs, gas stations were alive with conversation, cigarette smoke, bell chimes, and the smell of oil mixed with coffee. To pull into a gas station in the 1950s was to be noticed immediately. A thin rubber hose would roll across the concrete as a bell rang when your tires passed over it. The bell wasn't decoration, it was an announcement. Someone inside heard it, wiped their hands on a rag, and came running. A uniformed attendant would approach your car with a smile, often calling you sir or ma'am. He didn't ask what you wanted. He already knew. Full service was the only service. He'd ask how much gas, pop open the hood, and check your oil while the pump clicked steadily behind him. Gas was cheap by today's standards, but that's not why people loved the experience. They loved the care. While the tank filled, the attendant checked tire pressure, cleaned your windshield by hand, topped off your radiator, and sometimes even adjusted your headlights all without being asked. In small towns, the gas station was often the most important business on Main Street. Farmers gathered so early in the morning, leaning against pickup trucks, sipping coffee from chipped mugs, talking about weather, crops, and the local gossip. The owner knew everyone's name, their car's quirks, and often their family history. Teenagers treated the gas station like a second home. After school, they'd cruise in just to hang around. They talked cars, admired chrome bumpers, listened to the radio blaring rock and roll, and flirted awkwardly beside the pumps. Many young men learned basic mechanics not in school, but behind the station, under a lifted hood. The soundscape of a 1950s gas station was unforgettable. Air compressors hissed, engines idled low and steady, radios played Elvis or Perry Como, and somewhere in the background, a bell dinged again, another car arriving, another interaction about to begin. Inside the station office, the air was thick with oil and cigarette smoke. There was usually a worn counter, a cash register, a corkboard with local ideas, and maybe a calendar with a smiling pin-up girl. Shelves held motor oil in metal cans, fan belts, spark plugs, and the road maps folded 100 times. Road maps were essential. Before GPS or smartphones, attendants gave directions by memory. Go past the red barn, take a left at the church, and if you hit the river, you've gone too far. Travelers trusted them, and usually, they were right. Gas stations were also unofficial tourist centers. Families on cross-country trips stopped not just for fuel, but for advice. Where to eat, where to sleep, which road was safer, which town to avoid after dark. The station attendant often knew more than any guidebook. For many Americans, gas stations were tied deeply to road trips, a symbol of freedom and possibility. Kids piled into the back seat, noses pressed to windows, while parents chatted with the attendant. Restrooms were basic, sometimes questionable, but they were available, and that mattered. In rural areas, gas stations were lifelines. Some were attached to general stores, selling milk, bread, candy, and even shoes. Others doubled as repair shops where broken-down cars were fixed with ingenuity rather than replacement parts. Breakdowns weren't rare in the 1950s. Cars overheated, belts snapped, tires blew. When that happened, the gas station didn't just sell you parts, they fixed the problem. Sometimes on the spot, sometimes late into the night. Women were treated differently at gas stations, then often with exaggerated politeness. Attendants rushed to help, sometimes refusing tips. It reflected the social norms of the era, for better or worse. Gas stations mirrored American society, including its assumptions and limitations. At night, the station glowed like a beacon. Neon signs buzzed and flickered. Moths circled the lights. The concrete stayed warm long after sunset. For lonely travelers, that glow meant safety, a place with people, light, and help. Gas station owners worked long hours. Men lived behind or above the station. Their lives blurred between business and home. Children grew up stacking oil cans, sweeping floors, and learning responsibility early. Credit wasn't swiped, it was personal. Regular customers ran tabs. Their names were written in ledgers. Trust was the currency. If someone said they'd pay Friday, they did. Gas stations were also social equalizers. Doctors, farmers, truck drivers, and salesmen all waited at the same pumps. Conversations crossed class lines in ways that felt natural then. As the decade moved on, change crept in quietly. Self-service pumps appeared. Corporate chains expanded. The personal touch slowly faded. The bell stopped ringing. Attendants stopped running. By the end of the 1950s, the golden age of the American gas station was already slipping away, replaced by speed, efficiency, and the anonymity. But for those who lived it, the memory remains vivid. The smell of gasoline on warm concrete, the clink of the pump handle, the feeling that someone cared about your car and maybe, just a little, about you too. Because in 1950s America, the gas station wasn't just where you filled your tank. It was where stories met, where strangers talked, where the road felt less lonely, and where everyday life paused just long enough to connect.